It's quite a surprise that African nations have been struggling on the economic front for so many years. What's even more astonishing is that they gained their independence over 6 decades ago. Africa is blessed with abundant natural resources, fertile land, and a great climate. It's a real shame that despite all these advantages, many African nations haven't been able to achieve as much progress as they should have since gaining independence a long time ago. This is in sharp contrast to other countries around the world that were in a similar situation back in the 1960s, but have managed to surge far ahead of African nations today. Take Singapore, for instance. This tiny island nation, which was in a situation similar to Africa immediately after gaining independence, is now considered a first world country. It is definitely a remarkable success story. And what about China? China, which was also once a colony, has managed to bootstrap itself to success as well. Today, China's economy competes head-to-head with the world's economic giants, including the United States. But how did China lift itself from the shackles of poverty to become the second biggest economy in the world? And what valuable lessons can Africa learn from China's experience? Well, by exploring the parallels between China's remarkable rise from poverty to a global economic powerhouse and the challenges faced by African nations, we can uncover a treasure trove of lessons that can illuminate the path to a better Africa. Let's get into the key insights that could hold the promise of guiding African countries on their quest for prosperity. Number 1. Crafting a nation's vision for the future. Imagine if every 5 years, African nations crafted their own detailed game plan for the future. Just like China, they could use these plans as invaluable guides on their journey to progress. The idea isn't new. China's 5-year plans have been paving the way for their development since 1953. The plans are like China's treasure maps, outlining the route to the nation's economic and social growth. From industry and agriculture to healthcare, education, and technology, all plans are meticulously laid out for a brighter future. This is how China has skillfully addressed urgent needs and ensured well-rounded progress. What sets China's approach apart is its top-down strategy, centrally coordinated and implemented by various government ministries and agencies. This unified effort ensures that the outlined objectives are pursued with determination and a sense of harmony. And that's not all. The adaptability of these plans is a critical factor. Midterm reviews and adjustments are common practice in China, which makes it easy to respond effectively to changing circumstances and priorities. Flexibility is essential in a world where challenges and opportunities are always evolving. Now the question is, how can African nations benefit from this critical knowledge? In Africa, it's quite common for political leaders to present vibrant manifestos during their election campaigns. However, there's often a lack of rigorous follow-up and concrete implementation strategies to turn these manifestos into a reality once they secure the presidential seat. It's a pattern in Africa where leaders tend to shelve their promises after taking office, only to dust them off when the next election cycle approaches.
Jobs, opportunities.
A potential solution lies in adopting a strategy similar to China's 5-year plans. African nations could benefit immensely from implementing these strategies to bring their appealing manifestos to fruition. The key issue here is that, unlike China's methodical planning and implementation, many African leaders struggle to turn their campaign pledges into concrete actions that benefit their citizens. Number 2. China's infrastructure success story. China's investment in infrastructure is indeed remarkable. Over the past few decades, the Chinese have transformed their nation with a network of roads, bridges, high-speed railways, and modern ports. This infrastructure backbone has been a driving force behind their economic growth. The improved infrastructure has not only facilitated transportation, but has also woven a tighter web of connectivity among China's provinces. African nations have much to learn from China's impressive journey in building infrastructure. Africa is a vast continent with diverse economies and abundant resources, but its underdeveloped infrastructure often poses a significant challenge when it comes to efficiently transporting goods and people across its many countries. Let's take a closer look at the situation. In Africa, quite a number of regional transportation corridors remain untarmacked. This lack of quality roads can be a significant obstacle, especially for landlocked countries located far from seaports. In the same vein, it's quite ironic that airfares for traveling within Africa tend to be more costly than those for individuals traveling out of the continent. The importance of infrastructure development cannot be overstated. African nations can enhance connectivity and unleash trade potential among themselves by prioritizing the development of an extensive network of roads, ports, and railways, and reducing transportation costs. China's experience in this realm is a shining example. They've successfully transformed their infrastructure, which has significantly contributed to their economic growth. African countries can certainly take notes and adapt some of these lessons to their unique circumstances. It's all about paving the way for a brighter future, both literally and metaphorically, by investing in infrastructure that connects and propels the continent forward. To add another layer, the Chinese are also actively promoting the Belt and Road Initiative (BRI), which clearly holds significant potential for African nations. On multiple occasions, China has extended invitations to leaders from the Global South to engage in discussions regarding the BRI. There is much anticipation surrounding this initiative. While some Western countries view the funding of BRI project as a potential debt burden, there's no doubt that Africa could reap substantial benefits from the high-quality roads and railways constructed by China. The eventual result could be an interconnected Africa that would undoubtedly contribute to fostering intra-African trade, stimulating the African economy, as well as generating essential employment opportunities for the continent's youthful population. Number 3. The art of industrialization. Industrialization has been a cornerstone of China's remarkable development, synonymous with the creation of jobs and high-value exports. This strategy, which began its journey in the mid-20th century, can serve as an invaluable blueprint for Africa's own path to progress. To better understand the potential lessons Africa can draw from China's experience, let's dive into a short historical background of China's industrialization, starting around 1945. In the mid-20th century, China was a nation in the midst of significant change. Following a tumultuous period of political upheaval and civil war, the People's Republic of China was eventually established in 1949, a new beginning of an era under the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party. The country's leadership quickly recognized the importance of industrialization as a means to boost economic growth, create jobs, and strengthen the nation's global position. China then began a journey to improve its industrial and manufacturing capabilities. The country concentrated on investments in key sectors such as steel, heavy machinery, and infrastructure. The establishment of the Great Leap Forward in the late 1950s and the subsequent implementation of economic reforms under Deng Xiaoping in the late 1970s played pivotal roles in shaping China's industrial sector. Under Deng Xiaoping's stewardship, China focused on the development of numerous industrial zones and the growth of manufacturing hubs. The end result? China became a global manufacturing powerhouse, exporting a wide range of products to international markets. This export-led growth not only created millions of jobs, but also positioned China as a key player in the global economy. Now, as Africa contemplates its own journey toward industrialization, it can draw inspiration from China's experience. Africa should emulate China's strategy of nurturing industrial and manufacturing capabilities. The continent has the potential to harness industrialization as a catalyst for job creation and high-value exports, much like China did in its transformative journey. And to top it all, Africa enjoys an advantage when it comes to renewable energy sources like geothermal, wind, hydro, and solar power. This advantage is compounded by a growing youthful human resource capital. It would be a game-changing endeavor if African nations swiftly tapped into these readily available forms of energy to kickstart their industrialization agenda. Africa is also the only continent endowed with huge mineral deposits. This continent boasts 40% of the globe's gold reserves, and it's home to a staggering 90% of its chromium and platinum. Not to mention, Africa holds the world's largest reserves of cobalt, diamonds, platinum, and uranium. Furthermore, it possesses 65% of the world's arable land and a valuable 10% of the planet's internal renewable freshwater sources. The continent is way richer, but its leaders are not alive to this fact. Number 4. Agricultural modernization. The prospect of enhancing food security and reducing poverty in Chinese rural areas through agricultural modernization is indeed a valuable gift. The African continent can undoubtedly aspire to enjoy these same benefits by focusing on improving agricultural productivity and guaranteeing bountiful harvests for its population. To better appreciate the potential lessons Africa can learn, let's take a closer look at China's agricultural history, including the challenges it faced during Mao Zedong rule and the subsequent recovery. China's agricultural sector faced a tumultuous period during the rule of Chairman Mao Zedong, particularly from the late 1950s through the 1970s. Mao's policies, notably the Great Leap Forward and the associated collectivization efforts, had unintended and disastrous consequences. The push for rapid industrialization led to the diversion of resources away from agriculture. Collectivization and communes disrupted traditional farming practices, resulting in reduced agricultural productivity and food shortages. The consequences of these policies were devastating. China experienced widespread famine, and millions of lives were tragically lost. It was a stark reminder of the critical importance of a robust and sustainable agricultural sector in any nation's development. China, however, embarked on a path of recovery and reform in the late 1970s under the leadership of Deng Xiaoping. One of the key components of this reform was the decollectivization of agriculture. Farmers were given more autonomy and allowed to contract their own plots of land, which provided them with incentives to improve productivity. As a result, China's agricultural sector rebounded significantly. The country not only achieved food security, but also became a net exporter of agricultural products. While many farms in Africa operate as individual, decentralized entities, farmers often lack access to modern agricultural infrastructure, including machinery and knowledge of value addition. African nations can draw valuable insights from China's ability to provide sustenance for its population, which now exceeds 1 billion people. In recent times, China has been on a fast track to expand its irrigation infrastructure, creating an impressive network of reservoirs and canals tailored to agricultural needs. And it's no small feat. The Ministry of Water Resources reports that China boasts a whopping 7,326 large and medium-sized irrigation areas. The Chinese government has also taken several supportive measures for rural farmers. These actions comprise the elimination of agricultural taxes, direct payments to farmers when market prices fall below the targeted levels, the implementation of agricultural insurance, and a host of agricultural subsidies. These initiatives underscore the government's strong commitment to assisting its farming community. And to sweeten the deal, the government encourages big enterprises such as supermarkets and cafeterias to purchase goods directly from the farmers' cooperatives. This very strategy has significantly contributed to the reduction of cartels in the agricultural sector. To paint a broader picture, China has achieved a remarkable feat by producing 1/4 of the world's grain and feeding 1/5 of the global population, all while utilizing less than 10% of the world's arable land. At present, China leads the world in the production of various agricultural products, including cereals, cotton, vegetables, and white meat. In Africa, governments seldom provide subsidies to support their farmers, leaving them vulnerable to the influence of cartels. Not only that, a lack of significant efforts to explore international markets for the continent's agricultural products is glaring. These are issues that require urgency to address if Africa is to unlock its agricultural potential. The continent has vast arable land and a diverse range of crops. Increasing investment in agriculture and sustainable farming practices can work magic in improving the livelihoods of African farmers and contributing to food security regionally and globally. It's hard to imagine that Africa is the only continent struggling with hunger and famine. Number 5. Embracing foreign investment. China's open arms policy toward foreign investment injected life into its economy. While China remained isolated from the outside world for an extended period of time, its story finally underwent a visible transformation when it opened its doors to foreign investors. China's success in luring major global corporations to establish a presence within its borders serves as clear evidence of its expanding economic influence. World-renowned brands like Apple, Volkswagen, Siemens, and Samsung, among others, have all chosen to set up shop in China. Of course, some of these brands have faced criticism for benefiting from lower labor costs in China. However, it's impossible to overlook the substantial positive impact of their presence in the country, especially in terms of creating job opportunities for the Chinese people. China's journey towards becoming an economic juggernaut is characterized by its willingness to embrace foreign investors. The idea is simple yet powerful. Create a hospitable environment for investors, cut through the bureaucratic red tape, and invite the world to partake in your growth story. For African countries, this approach holds immense potential. That single move of creating a friendly atmosphere for foreign investors has seen a surge in international capital flow to China. The influx of foreign investments in China has catalyzed economic growth, hastened technological advancements, and paved the way for job creation. Such a scenario might seem distant for African nations for now, but we can't lack relevant examples within Africa worth considering. Take Ethiopia, for instance, a country that has eagerly welcomed foreign companies, especially in its manufacturing sector. The establishment of industrial parks, improved infrastructure, and tax incentives have lured the likes of H&M and Toyota, among others, to set up shop in the country. Another case in point is Rwanda. Rwanda's efforts to cut through the red tape and make the business scene friendlier have really paid off. They've managed to pull in investments across different sectors. And what you don't know is that, in Rwanda, it only takes a foreigner a few days to get their company registered, which makes Rwanda a very attractive investment destination. Unfortunately, not all African nations have embraced this open approach. Some continue to repel foreign investments through burdensome regulations, punitive taxes, and bureaucratic hurdles. Such actions are not only detrimental to the potential investors, but also to the host nations themselves. The most common stumbling block is the labyrinth of bureaucracy when applying for business licenses. Lengthy and convoluted processes deter investors who seek clarity, efficiency, and predictability. Not only that, punitive taxes and exorbitant fees time and again discourage companies from setting up operations, resulting in missed opportunities. To add insult to injury, political instability and a lack of legal safeguards in most African countries often contribute to the reluctance of foreign investors. It is in the hearts of foreign investors that their investments will be protected and disputes will be fairly resolved. When these assurances are lacking, potential investors flee to safer and more attractive options elsewhere. To sum it up, African nations can take a page out of China's playbook, understanding that fostering a hospitable environment for foreign investments can be a game changer. The benefits are clear: job creation, economic growth, and technological advancements. By shedding red tape and embracing foreign investors, African countries will be on the right path toward prosperity. Number 6. Nurturing human capital. Education and skill development have without doubt served as the cornerstones of China's remarkable transformation. African nations stand to benefit significantly by adopting a similar approach, prioritizing the nurturing of human capital through investments in education and vocational training. China's relentless dedication to technology transfer and innovation provides a guiding light for African nations. By investing in research and development, R&D, and fostering a culture of innovation, Africa can change its competitiveness in the world. However, to fully harness this potential, African nations must also address two critical challenges. 1. Preventing brain drain, and 2. Promoting skill-based education, akin to China's vocational schools. Statistics have shown that Africa experiences a substantial exodus of talent in the form of a brain drain, with many skilled individuals seeking opportunities abroad. This is a dangerous trajectory. To mitigate this, African nations should start creating an environment that retains their brightest minds, offer them what they want, competitive salaries, establish world-class research institutions, and encourage collaboration between academia and industry. By so doing, African countries can retain the highly valued intellectual capital. And what about promoting skill-based education? China's emphasis on skill-based education, including vocational schools, has been instrumental in preparing a workforce equipped with practical skills tailored to the needs of modern industries. African nations can take a cue from this and invest more in vocational education. Expanding vocational schools and programs can address the huge skills gap in Africa. Number 7. Political stability, the foundation of development. China's impressive path to success is clearly rooted in a strong bedrock of political stability and consistent leadership. Political stability has been instrumental in molding the nation's progress and its proficiency in executing long-term plans. China's political state has been maintained through the one-party system, led by the Chinese Communist Party. While we're not advocating for a one-party model of governance, there's a lot that Africa can learn from how the Chinese CCP handles key events in governance. For instance, the smooth transition of power over the course of many decades is truly admirable. In contrast, many African nations have been plagued by conflicts, coups, and leaders who have extended their stay in power for decades. It goes without saying that troubled nations politically do scare away investors. Africans need to understand that a good political environment is necessary for a better future for the continent. It is true that political continuity in China has provided a consistent and long-term policy framework, which has been instrumental in driving the country's development strategies smoothly. African nations can learn valuable lessons from China's experience in ensuring stable leadership transitions and minimizing political turbulence. There is a dire need to create transparent and predictable processes for leadership changes in Africa, emphasizing more on constitutional limits on presidential terms. Political stakeholders should prioritize dialogue and cooperation to prevent conflicts and recurring power struggles. We cannot talk about political stability without addressing the elephant in the room: corruption. China's anti-corruption campaign under President Xi Jinping has yielded notable successes, including the investigation and punishment of numerous high-ranking officials. This stance has firmly conveyed to government officials that corruption is intolerable. These actions can only result in one thing: a transparent and highly accountable government. While the campaign has faced criticism for its methods, it reflects a strong commitment by Chinese leaders to combating corruption. It's no secret that corruption is rampant in Africa. No corrupt country can pull itself out of poverty. It is a sorry situation in the continent because a majority of African leadership is corrupt. They steal from public coffers and stash their loot in overseas accounts. Since there are no serious consequences for the actors, corruption in Africa thrives unabated. What's urgently needed are leaders in Africa who can tackle corruption head-on, much like the Chinese have done. Africa loses huge chunks of money to corruption, money that would have otherwise gone into development projects. To put it in a nutshell, while China's journey out of poverty may be unique, the lessons it imparts are universal. African nations must adapt and apply these insights to their own distinctive circumstances, laying the foundation for sustainable economic growth. The path may be challenging, but the vision is clear: a prosperous, dynamic Africa that learns from the past and forges a brighter future. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think that African leadership can learn a thing or two from China? We would like to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment in the comments section below. Subscribe.